Hey guys, welcome to episode number 552. Today is Monday, so it's Update Monday, and if you can hear, we've got water running in the greenhouse for the first time. Super exciting. Everything is up and running, working very well, so stay tuned. In today's episode, we are going to walk around, show the entire greenhouse and the entire pond and how it's all hooked up, how it's all operating. We're also going to move the goldfish outdoors. It's officially fall. Everyone's moving their fish indoors. Of course, I'm the only one moving fish outdoors. So stick around and learn how to be a better aquarist. All right, guys, so first things first, we have water flowing in the greenhouse. We have essentially a 1-inch return line, which bumps down to a 1/2-inch ball valve. And we have one of those on every single one of these 60-gallon Laguna tubs. And that proved to be the perfect size to provide the right amount of flow into each one of these tubs. Now, this is all connected to the same line, so we've got water coming into all 6 of these tubs, and then it's exiting through our 1-inch bulkhead here on the back side of these tubs. Now, these are the slip by threaded bulkheads, which means this side, the inside is slip connection, so I can just slip these little plant guards in place here on the inside, but then on the outside it's threaded, so I can use Teflon tape and I can thread on my fittings to connect to the rest of my plumbing. So let's take a look underneath this thing. I've spent a while underneath this system getting everything hooked up, so let's crawl underneath so you can see what this looks like on the backside. Alright, we're a little cramped for space underneath here. We've got the tubs right up above us. I got a piece of cardboard down so I don't get all dirty down here. But let me flip this camera around and you guys can see the 2-inch drain plumbing and how all of the water is flowing through that. So, here's the 2-inch pipe. As you can see, we've got it on brackets, so it's all connected. And if we scooch up here, you can see we've got one of our bulkheads, and then we've got Teflon tape, and then we've got a 1-inch barbed connector with the hose clamp on it, and then we've got a piece of vinyl tubing, and that goes down into a 1-inch uniseal, which has been drilled into this 2-inch drain pipe. And the stuff that's around it on the edges is just a little bit of JB water weld. That is an epoxy, a potable water safe epoxy, which is just filling in that gap to make sure that no water is able to leak out around the sides. So that's basically the setup down here on the back side of these tubs. As you can see, that 1-inch drain is plenty for these tubs. Again, we've got the 1/2-inch ball valve, which is flowing water in. We got a 1-inch drain line, which is flowing water out. And then they all connect here, all 6 tubs connect to a 2-inch master drain line, which then goes into the filter. So I built this filter last week. Let's get out from underneath here and we can take a look at how this filter is running now that there's water in it. Okay, so here's the filter in operation. Again, you can see the 1-inch line here, which is coming from the pond pump. We'll go over to the pond in a second. You can see what's going on over there. Then we've got the 2-inch drain line, which is dumping into this first container. Again, it is a RV or boat container, like a potable water container. And it's nice because it's nice and tall and slim, and it fits in this very narrow space very well. So all of that water is dumping in. We've got some very coarse Matala, which is catching a lot of the heavy debris. You can actually see some of the PVC shavings that were inside some of those pipes have already gotten caught in there. And then we go through the 2-inch bulkhead into the mop bucket. And again, we got a lot of Matala, from coarse all the way to fine grade. And this stuff is doing a great job at slowing the water down and trapping a whole bunch of particles. And the pump's only been on for a couple hours, so these are still nice and clean. But I'm expecting, once this runs for a few weeks, that I'll be able to pull these out, hose them off, and they will catch a ton of debris. So super excited about that. Again, we got our 2-inch bulkhead, and then we got the 2-inch line, which goes underneath the greenhouse through the floor. I've capped that off with a little bit of gravel. I can dig that out if I ever need to, but now no animals will be able to get inside. We've still got our temporary electrical. We got the cord running across the yard. That's going to be one of the next projects, is to try to get a trench going for the electrical so we can have something more long-term out here. But it is operational. We got water flowing into every one of these tanks. We've got water draining out these bulkheads in every one of these tanks. And even the ones with a lot of duckweed here, it doesn't look like the flow is great enough that it's causing any sort of problems with these. I know these can get clogged up if you have too much duckweed or small particulate matter. I may need to devise some sort of floating duckweed guard or something like that at a later point in time if I do see these getting clogged up. But what would happen if these start getting clogged? Obviously the flow going out would be reduced, the water coming in would go up, and at some point it would create a siphon and probably pull a lot of that junk through. The worst case scenario would be if this got completely plugged up, then I would just get water overspilling, overflowing in one of these tubs, and that would cause a big problem. So we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen. Part of that plan is probably gonna be making sure we don't have duckweed in here next year, or that we contain it somehow, and then maybe we stick to some of the larger plants that aren't going to foul up the overflows as much. But as we've sort of seen over the last month or so that these tubs have been set up without flow, these three look like they're not getting as much sunlight. And that's because the sun sort of rises in this direction, and then by the time it hits sort of midday, it's behind trees basically for the rest of the day as it sets. And so what that means is gradually each one of these tanks gets less light as you go that way, or more light as you go this way. And even the water lettuce, to my surprise, has done fairly well. I wouldn't say it's growing out of control, and obviously it's very late in the season for it, but it hasn't died back. And I've certainly witnessed water lettuce die back from lack of sunlight before. So you know, I am pleased to say it's at least hanging on even this late in the year. So if I do decide to grow plants out here next year, I think what the plan is these first 3 tubs are going to have like a styrofoam raft in them, and I will be growing plants like aquaponics type plants in these first 3 bins, because they're the ones that are going to get the most light. They're going to have the best chance of hanging on. So we might try something like tomatoes, lettuce, and some sort of herb perhaps. And then the 3 bins over here that aren't getting enough light to make the plants happy, we might just throw some fish, some small fish out here, and try some other things. to see if we can make use of this space. So that's the current plan. I'm going to be monitoring this system here over the next few days just to make sure that nothing's getting clogged up, that the flow rate is as is expected, to make sure we don't have any drips or any small leaks anywhere, to make sure that this is basically bulletproof. That's the number one thing you need to do when you set something up. You need to just monitor it like a hawk and make sure that you know, problems don't slowly start to arise. Until you're 100% sure that nothing bad is going to happen, you always have to just keep your eye on it. So that's certainly what I'm going to be doing. All right, so we've seen inside. Let's go take a look at the pond outside. All right, we are out at the pond, and hello, flow. We have a ton of flow in this pond. Don't mind the makeshift net here. I just needed a temporary filter sock of some sort, so I've got a net and a little piece of drain sleeve, and I'm just hoping that's going to capture some of the larger particles that are flowing through this system now that it is flowing. Now, as I've said in the past, we've had a lot of rain. This thing has been overflowing. We've been getting a lot of sand and fine particulate matter in this pond, and that's starting to clear up. The water is still cloudy, and that's because there's a lot of those small sand particles still in suspension. But now that things are moving, stuff will start getting trapped by some of the filters, and that will start to clear up. I may need to go in there with a net and a brush and sort of scrape the sides and net stuff out just to clean it up completely so that all you see is blue. But for right now, the pump is on and things are flowing, which means the water will start to get cleaned up. We do have a pond net here, and I've been using that every day or two just to clean up the leaves that have been falling into this pond. And I'm assuming that's going to be a process that I'll need to continue to follow. But this is the important thing to take a look at here. We saw the pump in last week's video. You can go take a look at that. What we have added here is a bypass, and I may need to put the pump on something to weight it down, because right now there's enough flow coming out of this bypass that I think the whole thing is being pushed over onto its side. But a bypass is really important, because if you have a pump that is too strong, you need some way to relieve the pressure. And for me, I like to use bypasses to do that. Essentially what that means is part of the flow is bypassing and is returning right back into this pond, and that's what's creating a lot of this surface agitation right now. The rest of that pressure and flow from that pump is going up into this 1-inch line, and that's what's going to the greenhouse. If I didn't have the bypass on there, the pump is actually a little oversized. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough flow and enough head height, because we are 4 feet down and then another 3 or 4 feet up here on land that this pump has to pump. And so you lose pressure, you lose head height, you lose gallons per hour as that happens. But luckily the pump is a little oversized, and so the solution to dial it in is to just add a bypass. It relieves some of the pressure, which means the flow up in the 60-gallon Laguna tubs is a little bit less. It means the stress and the amount of gallons going through the drain system is a little bit less, but you can still use the pump that you have. So personally, I would rather have a slightly overpowered pump and put a bypass on it, as opposed to a slightly underpowered pump that, you know, may not perform as well as you need it to. So we've got the pond out here, we've got flow, we've got everything circulating and filtering. I think it's high time to go get our goldfish and move them out into their new home. Alright guys, we are out here with the goldfish in the buckets. Now, goldfish are very hardy. However, these guys have been indoors in tropical waters, and obviously we are moving them outdoors, and it is starting to get really cold out here. So what I'm going to do is very slowly acclimate them, temperature acclimate them, by just dumping in like a half scoop of water here every 15 minutes or so. And what that's going to allow them to do is slowly go down to the temperature of the water out here in the pond before I release them into the pond itself. Now, you may have noticed in the clip while I was collecting the goldfish that I left the two smallest goldfish indoors. They're going to stay indoors over the winter. I don't think they're big enough to survive the winter out here and sort of hibernate on the bottom of this pond. Those are the two that spawned somehow in my 40-gallon tanks indoors this past summer. I still have no idea how that happened, but they're starting to get a little color on them, and hopefully they'll grow out during the winter, and then I can transfer them out here in the spring. So I'm gonna go ahead and let these guys sit for about 15 minutes. Then I'll add another scoop of water. I'll repeat this process for the next hour or two, and then we will release these fish into the pond. And check this out. The pond is only a couple weeks old, and we already have our first wild inhabitant. This is a bad guy. This is a water boatman, and these guys fly into ponds and then they eat your baby fish and tadpoles and anything else they can get their hands on. So I have to net these guys out. Alright, so while those goldfish are acclimating, I thought it would be a great time to mention the aquatic experience. Now, this is going to be one of the biggest and best fish events of the year. They recently moved the show from Chicago to Secaucus, New Jersey, to the Meadowlands Convention Center right outside of New York. And it is a month away. So it is time for you guys to go get your tickets, get your plane tickets, get your train tickets, your bus tickets, whatever you need to get in order to get there, and your hotel tickets or hotel reservations in order. Now is the time to go do that. It is happening October 19th through the 21st in Secaucus, New Jersey at the Meadowlands Expo Center. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to see a lot of aquarium companies there, a lot of YouTubers. If you want to meet me, if you want to meet Mike, if you want to meet probably at least a dozen other aquarium YouTubers, a lot of people are going to be there. They're all going to be in one place together for the entire weekend. It's a lot of fun. We're going to bring a lot of stuff to sell. My aquarium box has a booth, so we're going to bring a lot of the driftwood. Maybe the aquascaping stone. Let me know if you guys would be interested in buying aquascaping stone while there. It's kind of heavy, so I don't want to carry a whole bunch of it down there and then have to carry a whole bunch of it back. But if people want it, maybe we'll bring it. But we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff to sell there. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's always great to meet new people and see the people, you know, from previous years come back time and time again. So this will be our second year exhibiting at the Aquatic Experience. I'm super happy that it has moved to New Jersey or the New York area. It's a lot shorter of a trip for us to make, but we're going to be hitching up the U-Haul trailer and driving down for that. So we will be there Thursday for setup, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the show days, and then we'll be headed home. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff going on there. If you want to learn more about it, Google Aquatic Experience, go check out the website, buy tickets to the show, make sure you've got your travel and your hotel and everything lined up. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you don't have any other aquarium events to go to, this is the one you need to go to. So hope to see you guys there. If you do go, definitely drop by and say hi. We are at the My Aquarium Box booth. I believe it's booth number 316. So go check us out there and say hi. Anyways, let's go acclimate those fish. Alright guys, and away they go. It's funny how you can throw close to 24 fish into a 1,000-gallon pond and then they instantly disappear and you can't find any of them. There's a couple of them down there. You can see a little orange. They're actually kind of schooling up a little bit, which is kind of funny. But yeah, they're in. And they seem to be doing well. I'll try feeding them later today once they've sort of gotten accustomed to their new home here. But yeah, this 1,000-gallon tank is plenty big enough for them to get to a ripe old age, and I really hope that they do. Now, the ground around here is still a total mess. And that's the next thing that I think I need to tackle. I need to get my foam down. I need to get my groundwork, my tiles or whatever else down, patio pavers. And I also need to figure out a way to trench electrical from the house out here to the greenhouse, because the only way these guys are going to survive the winter is if they have an air pump, and I need air out here. So I definitely need electrical, definitely need to get this ground insulated, and then we should be pretty much wrapped up and tucked in for a long winter. But super excited that this all came together, that we've got flow, that we've got fish, and the system is now operational. Alright guys, and that is gonna do it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm super happy that we have flow going in this greenhouse and everything is officially set up and operational. It's been a long project here outside this summer. Usually my summer projects only last a few weeks. This one seems to have taken many months to complete, but I can definitely say now that everything is hooked up and operational that it was totally worth it. Just being able to have fish outdoors for the first time is really cool, and to do it on this scale to start out with is awesome. I mean, I put that 55-gallon chop and flip barrel together last year, and I had a little success with that, but as you guys know, the bigger you go, the better it is. And with aquariums and fish and everything else, the more water volume, the easier it is. So this seemed like the next logical step, and I'm happy to say that everything came together smoothly. And yeah, I'm just super thrilled. I know we don't have a whole lot of time left in the growing season out here. I'm not going to get any vegetables or any aquatic plants grown out here before the flow has to be shut back off for the winter. But at least everything is operational, and I can confirm that everything works. So the plans are to shut everything down here when the water gets too cold, and to start to prepare those goldfish for a winter outdoors. They are my pioneers. They are the first ones out here, and I am excited and a little nervous to see if they're going to be able to survive the temperatures here in Massachusetts for the winter. Now, they're 4 feet down. I still have a lot of work to do insulating the ground and finishing the ground, but hopefully if that water stays warm enough and they sort of go down to the bottom, they will be able to sort of hibernate as they do and survive the winter. I guess it really depends on what kind of winter we have, but hopefully 4 feet is deep enough that they will be able to do that. As you guys may have seen in previous videos of Gary's pond, my friend Gary, his pond, I think it's about 5 or 6 feet deep at the lowest point. And that is a really deep pond. I mean, most ponds in this area only get around 4 feet deep, and koi are able to survive the winter. So I'm really gunning for those goldfish and hoping that they make it. I'm gonna give them every opportunity I can to make sure that they make it. So anyways, guys, if you stick around for next week's video, we have a few projects left to tackle out here before it gets too cold, before the ground starts to freeze. The first of which is to finish the groundwork around that pond. We got a little raking to do, a little leveling, tamping the ground down. We got to buy insulation foam, 2-inch insulation foam, and edge that entire pond so that we keep all of the geothermal ground heat we can around that body of water. We also have to find some stone to put over that foam to sort of edge around the pond so that we make a nice outdoor patio area before that ground gets too cold. We also need to start considering long-term electrical. Now, we just have a extension cord running from the house right now. That is not a 4-season solution. This is not a 4-season greenhouse, but I would like to have 4-season power out here. So we need to start thinking of a way to trench our electrical out here and figure out a solution for that. That may take a few weeks, but hopefully we can get to that and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.